Termites, what are they? Why are they important to my life? How is it an issue as it pertains to real estate contracts? We're going to be talking about all things termites today, along with a whole lot of other things on the Brian Hirsch Show. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, whatever time you're listening to, from wherever you're listening to or watching today's episode of The Brian Hirsch Show. We're so delighted that you have decided to join us. And we do hope that today's broadcast will be something that helps you in some way. One of the issues that comes up quite frequently in real estate contracts is the issue of termites, or more specifically, termite reports. And I find myself explaining what termite reports, what the reports mean, what the remedies are, what the relationship is to the report, to the purchase agreement, and who is responsible for them. Probably in, I would say, more than half of the contracts that I deal with, the transactions that I deal with. And I suppose that on the one hand, it is something that we should be aware of and something that we should be prepared for. But on the other hand, sometimes I think people make more of an issue than it really is. And so today I have invited a very special guest who probably has more expertise than virtually anybody out there when it comes to all things termites and termite reports. This is a man who has vast experience, not only in pest control and reports and whatnot, but also deals with a lot of real estate agents, deals with a lot of real estate transactions. And so I would like for everybody to please welcome to today's episode of the Brian Hirsch Show, Mr. Brett Rockwell. Brett, what is up, my brother? How are you?
Beautiful day in paradise. I can't complain.
Hey, man, I'm digging all the, are those skateboards hanging on your wall there?
I did a few different ones. And basically it's a combination of Dodger stuff, some custom stuff. So Dodger, Star Wars, and guns are. Oh, can we say the G word? Dodger, Star Wars, and guns are what all my money that my wife doesn't get into goes towards. So
Oh,
little homage to my stuff, some custom logo stuff. So yeah,
so we're gonna say a little prayer for our Dodgers tonight. That
mean,
game on Saturday was difficult.
that hurt. I was at the game 5 in 2014 when Kershaw got shelled by the Cardinals. So, yeah, it never gets easy.
I was at that game too. Although I don't think it was game 5. I think it was either game 1 or 2.
It might. I'm trying to remember. I'm getting old, but it sounds better for a story if it was game 5, right? Yeah, I was sitting in left field and just watching it, and screaming at Matt Holliday the whole game, and then bada boom, bada bing.
Do you know Bobby Tarango?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he and I were sitting on the field level.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into, I think, the 7th inning of that game, up by 4 or 5 runs, and
Mm-hmm.
Kershaw gave up 7 straight hits, and Matt Carpenter, was
Yeah.
that was the death blow. I was there live and in person to witness that too, and I was there live and in person to witness the game 5 meltdown in 2019.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
I was there.
I was there in 15 when they lost to the Mets, and fortunately, I was sitting on field level and I was able to scream at Don Mattingly, and I'm surprised I didn't get kicked out of the stadium.
We have a lot in common. I was there for that game too.
Yeah. But I was at game 1 of the series and saw Kershaw pitched a gem, and that was the game that Chris Taylor hit that home run, which I missed by about 5 or 6 seats. And Kenley Jansen coming out of the 9th inning, the California Love, was like probably top 20 moments of my life. I mean, just watching that whole game was amazing.
So you're as dyed-in-the-wool a Dodger fan as I am.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm back. I remember being a kid watching Gibson hit his home run. I grew up as a Steve Sachs fan, met Oral Hershiser a couple times, got pictures with Steve Garvey. So from back in the day, the times when we had Mondesi, Karros, and Piazza back to back to back. I mean, those
of course, yeah.
That was
And
amazing.
Todd Hollandsworth was in that group too, by the
Oh
way.
yeah, Wes Gagne and I mean you name it. It's it's good to be a Dodgers fan. I always say it's like being married is there's always a chance every year, you know.
We need to go to a game,
Yeah,
brother.
it's
Yeah,
fun.
you sound like you somebody that actually knows what they're talking about, which is cool.
There you go.
Before we get into the issue of termites, and I always enjoy the things you post on your social media about issues that in the business. But where did you grow up, Brett?
So I was born in Riverside. Grew up, spent a little bit of time out in Ventura area for a few years, and then spent the rest of my time in the high desert. And then I moved down to Rancho Cucamonga a couple of years ago. So basically, I'm a Southern California native, which is few and far between nowadays, which is so weird.
Right? Yeah, me too, man. I was an OG. My folks. I was actually born. I was a military brat,
Okay,
but I don't remember any of that.
good.
All I knew growing up was Southern California here in the desert.
Mhm.
So this, I'm assuming that's how you gained market share here in the desert.
Yeah,
You spent a
so
lot of time
I
up here, right?
yeah, it's kind of crazy because I lived in Hesperia, Victorville, and Apple Valley for 25 years. But I was also fortunate there was a time when there was not a whole lot of people marketing. I started the business in 2009, and so that was, of course, the bottom of the last market. And so, fortunately, everybody was sitting home doing nothing, and I was out knocking on doors and going to the real estate offices. So,
Gotcha.
guilty by association.
How did you get into this business?
My dad did pest control going back to the 70s. And so started working in the office at Western Exterminator, Little Man with a Hammer, and started working in the office there after I finished college, just on a kind of short-term summer vacation kind of thing. And then the one day they're like, "Hey, can you go to this hotel and take all the bathroom caps off so we can put some dust in the walls for ants?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's better than talking to people on the phone, sure." And then a couple days later, like, "Hey, can you go get your license at the county?" And back then, you can get your county license the same day for applications. And then started working a route in December of 2009, and then started the business in 2000. I'm sorry, no, take that back. Started in pest control in 1999. See the gray hairs, yeah. And then started the business in 2009 when, of course, during the market shift, a lot of companies took that slow down approach. We're going to cut back because the economy's slowing down. And so I was an idiot and just kept moving forward.
In those days, there were a couple of differences in the market.
Mhm.
Did you know my mother, Paula?
I did not.
Okay. Well, she was a perennial top 5 agent in the desert working for Sheer Realty
Mhm.
for, the better part of 20 years.
Right.
And, the way I got into real estate, kinda same thing, family business.
Yep.
Uh, Prior to that, I'd spent most of my time in the nonprofit world,
Hmm.
and, I came into the business in 2011.
Hmm.
So it was that era
Yeah.
of real estate, and there was a couple of things that marked that era of real estate. One was 2 out of every 3 transactions were bank owned.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming you were doing a lot of REO.
Yeah, there was a time in 2009, 2010, I would go weeks without seeing a person. And it was kind of a joke that
Mm.
there was the same 4 or 5 combos that ran around from the asset managers. And I would just drive down the road. And if I saw a listing by an agent we work with, I would just stop in and do it, use the same code, AMER, NDE, 4928. I mean, those were all of the combos. And then I would send them a report and they would go, "Oh, yeah, thanks." Of course, in 2009, 10, 11, 12, and 13, the residential purchase agreement did require a wood pest inspection every single time. You had to actually have it omitted from the contract, so it was a kind of a safe bet. But we would just not see people at all. It was just empty
Yeah.
houses.
Well, that was the second thing I was gonna bring up that marked that era. It wasn't required, but there was a checkbox that
Mhm.
said, just like if a house has a septic tank,
Mhm.
you click on the SWPI and it generates that addendum in the zip form. It
Yep.
sounds to me like you're more familiar with all of this stuff than most
Oh yeah.
agents
Oh yeah.
are. And so the WPA
Mhm.
would be you click on that, and that section on the addenda section of the RPA,
Mhm.
you click on that, and it generates the report,
Right.
and then the agent would fill out, this is what we're requesting
Mhm.
the seller to cover,
Mhm.
as part of the negotiations with the purchase agreement. And it was about 6 or 7 years ago.
2013, September of 2013.
That's when Carr went away from it.
Yep.
Gosh,
Yep,
it's been
that
that
was
long.
Yeah, time flies
Oh,
when having fun. So I got the call in February of 13 from a couple buddies of mine who were brokers that were actually at Car, and they kind of called me and they're like, "Hey, the wood pest addendum is being taken off the contracts." And I was like, oh, okay. And OnlyFans didn't exist back then, so I couldn't sell feet pics. So I was like, maybe I'll be a title rep.
Well, I don't did it really impact?
Well, initially it did, and that was kind of the thing. You're
Okay.
going from a business. I mean, 2009. So let's see. Spring of 2010 is when Fannie Mae removed the termite certification requirements from lending conditions, and then transitioning into 2011 was when the short sale market came in. In 2012, we were still having short sales, and at the time, I would say it was something like 81% of contracts that were happening required a wood destroying organism certification. Majority of purchases were FHA at the time. FHA required certification. That dropped in 2011, 12-ish. And so it was basically part of every single contract. And it was one of those unknown factors because the question became, are realtors still going to get termite inspections? And when you have that kind of question, it's not a great way to operate a company. And so what I did is I kind of took a different approach to things. While some companies were going out of business and selling their businesses, I was like, all right, let's create a format to where we ensure that we do termite inspections on houses. And so what we started really pushing heavily then is doing the pre-list inspections and actually getting the properties inspected prior to.
Mm.
In my opinion, there was never really a good company that was extremely heavily involved in the contracts of real estate. It's something that I enjoy is actually being involved in it and knowing the boxes to check and knowing what parts we can get in and get out of and knowing the hyper specificities of real estate. And that's kind of what separated us is going, hey, what kind of loan are the buyers doing? Are they doing a VA loan? Okay, now we have to have a different certification, which was a benefit to the real estate transactions because we were 2, 3, 4, 5 days ahead of the curve on a lot of things like that. So it was a more technical aspect approach.
Well, that's fascinating. So one of the and every brokerage has their own way of training their agents on how to fill out a contract.
Mhm.
And I know that the reason CAR went away from the wood destroying pest addendum is because that addendum, and the word addendum means we're adding, right? So you're adding that to the purchase agreement, this
Mhm.
wood destroying pest addendum. And it says you would pre negotiate before we even have an inspection
Right.
that the seller would perform repairs.
Mhm.
And I can only surmise that if you're a car attorney, and remember there's 40 million people that live in California, you're going to have a good percentage of those where there's these contractual issues and you pre-negotiated that seller to perform repairs. We don't even know if there's needed repairs
You have
and
no idea of the amount.
or how much they're going to be.
Yeah.
And so they took all that out, which I think, was a good idea. It may not have been a good idea for your business.
Right.
But then, the old guard agents, whoever it is that's mentoring these new agents or whatever, they put in to the purchase agreement, it put something in there about we want termite. You've probably seen this. They'll slide in there a termite report and clearance.
Right.
I'm like, you just undid what those attorneys did. You put this in here. You pre-negotiated repairs before
I'll
we
I'll
even.
I'll take some blame for that.
That's you.
So I won't take all the credit for it, but again, when we're looking at marketing aspects, basically whoever's paying me is getting the benefit of my recommendations and expertise. And so I always say it's like when my wife asked me for a purse, I go, what kind of purse? Because we're talking everywhere from a used, Coach bag from the Goodwill, or we're talking an $18,000 Birkin. And is it to the benefit of the transaction? I don't know, but are we having disclosures? And if we have a buyer's agent that's going to ask for these things, I mean, box 27 on the old RPA was the one that removed the contingency removals throughout the entire contract, right? Okay, so if I ask for box 27 to be clicked, and the seller should negotiate that out, who's doing the better job of negotiating, right? So it's a fine line. It really is. But if you ask for it and the offer is declined, then you've posed problems for your client. If it gets approved, then you're benefiting your client. So it's in my opinion, it is a better chess move that can always be negated afterwards. But if it's
You have your head wrapped around all of this way beyond.
we're not just doing termite inspections. We're playing chess. We're playing chess, not checkers, right? We're
Okay,
so far down
so
rabbit holes.
I, as a seasoned veteran agent who's done hundreds of deals, I know that puts my seller in a precarious
Exactly.
situation to pre-negotiate a repair before we even know what repairs are required.
100%.
So I have in my template
Mhm.
on a counter offer already built in, it's boilerplate. It says all repairs to be negotiated after all inspections have been completed.
Mhm. And that is
So
a
that's
kudos to you
interesting.
for that's protecting your client, right?
Yeah,
And that's where
absolutely,
it's yeah,
100%. It's not that I'm
100%.
afraid of the report. I just don't want to agree to any repairs until we know if there are any needed and how much it's going to be.
I went to buy a car recently, and the guy goes, "What do you want your payment to be?" And I go, 0. Well, of course, I'm not gonna get the car for 0, but he asked the question, and I had the response, and then that's how we open negotiations, so
That's
and he
hilarious.
he gave me a look, and he's kinda like, yeah, I probably should have asked the question differently." I go, "Yeah, you probably should have."
Well, and he probably should have countered back and say, "Well, then I need a check for, $65,000 for, or whatever the sticker price on the car was."
100%.
So, now, I when I write offers,
Mhm,
okay, I'm on the other when I have my buyer's agent hat on, I do include in there, we want a termite report,
mhm.
okay, and then that's your relationship with the, listing agent,
Right.
because, we'll put in there usually,
Mhm.
seller's choice of company if we
Right.
wanna avoid that being countered out.
Mhm,
So then, um, you are contacted
mhm,
by the listing agent.
mhm.
Hey, we need
We'll say the owners because listed agents required to offer 3 separate choices to their sellers as part of a contractual obligation through California Association of Realtors, asterisk, air quotes, et cetera, so
yeah, well, let's get back to reality where the listing agent
yeah,
calls you.
then the realtor calls us and says, "Hey,
Yeah,
go out the house."
says I need says I need a termite report or inspection on, this house at this address.
Yep.
Walk our audience through what happens now once you get that request.
So the first thing we always make a push on is we're very cautious to explain that we don't do termite inspections. We do wood destroying organism inspections. And I think that's probably one of the most impressive or important takeaways is that a termite inspection is just looking for termites per se, but it also sets up that negative aspect where in the high desert, I would say probably 25 to 30% of inspections actually have findings on them. And so if you calling like, "Hey Bob, it's Brian, got to get a termite inspection done on the house," we go out to Bob's house and we don't find any termites, but we find water damage, which water damage is a section 1 would destroy an organism finding. And then Bob goes, "Well, I didn't want a water damage inspection, that's just dry rot, I just wanted a termite inspection." So we always try to impress upon people that it's a wood destroying organism inspection to compensate for those times where we don't find termites, but we do find water damage. So in that situation, we'll contact the sellers or responsible party, set an inspection coming out, and then what I always explain to people is I say we're like the Berenstein Bears. We're going to do inside, outside, upside down, and we're going to inspect every single square inch of accessible wood on the property. Checking the outside, the eaves, the fascia, any connected patio covers, any detached garages, or any detached permitted structures. So if you have a patio cover that's connected to the house, we're going to assume it is permitted and we're going to inspect that patio. But if it's a pergola or an arbor that's disconnected from the structure, we're going to omit that from inspection because it's not structural. We don't inspect fences. We don't inspect, storage sheds. It's got to be over a 10 by 12. And we're looking for water damage. We're looking for termites, evidence. We're looking for termite damage. And we're also looking for conducive conditions, things that may lead to a fungus or termite problem in the future. And then once we're done with that report, if the sellers are there, we'll go over it with it. If the buyers are there, we'll go over with it. And then we actually create a report. Every report is logged with the Structural Pest Control Board. So if you're wondering if a house that you're in contract and you're purchasing has had an inspection report, you can always go on to the Structural Pest Control Board website. It's wdo.pestboard.ca.gov. And that will tell you how many times the property is inspected over the past 3 years. Not that any work was done, but if the house has been inspected. So if you go there and you see some poke marks and, "No, we haven't had it inspected recently." "Oh, well, I see you have 3 inspections in the past 3 weeks of the property." And based off those findings and recommendations, then we move
Hmm.
forward according to the contract or buyer's requirements as well.
Wow. So, man, you spit out a lot of information in 2 minutes time. So let's back out. Let's back up a little bit and just reprise and clarify a couple of things.
Of course.
So the first thing that you said is important. It's very good, and even from this moment, now my axe has been sharpened. The word termite inspection or phrase, or the phrase termite report is a little bit of a misnomer, because it's more encompassing than just termites. It is a wood destroying
Organism
organism
inspection, correct.
inspection.
Mhm.
So to shorten it, we say a termite
Yeah.
inspection.
I say I'm Brett the termite guy, but on the initial setup, we're going to say wood destroying organism inspection just to set that precedence.
And it's important for the consumer, the client, to have
Streamline.
their head wrapped around that.
Mhm.
And so then the second thing that you referenced that I'd like to drill down a little deeper on is the phrase section one.
Mhm.
Okay, so you said you're looking for findings,
Mhm.
and then you mentioned all the structures and the things
Mhm.
that you're going to be inspecting. Essentially, anything that's fat, if it's real property
Yep.
fastened to the
The structure.
ground,
Correct.
then you're
The house
going
itself,
to
yeah, not just not necessarily the ground, but the house actually connected, hard connected to the structure, either the garage or the house itself.
okay, and you're going to take a look at any of the exposed wood,
Mhm.
and you're going to give us a report with any findings,
Mhm.
and the findings will be categorized
Mhm.
either as section one
Mhm.
or section two.
Correct.
So tell us again, what would be section one findings?
So section one is any active infestation of a wood destroying organism, either termites or water damage. And so anything happening on the house, anything eating the house, an organism, is going to be a section one. Section two items are going to be what I call homework, basically stuff you need to take care of in the future so that you don't have problems. Something like a water stain on the wall, that's going to be a section two item. It's an indication that there was a water condition there. Not that there's water damage, but that there is water conditions there. Something like the foundation of a house. So the foundation sits here, and then you have your stucco line that comes out. If the soil is above that stucco line, that allows water or termites to intrude into the structure. That's going to be a conducive condition. Termites or water can go in there undetected. Something like chipped and peeling paint condition. If the paint is peeling, that allows for water damage to intrude into the house. Those are all homework things that are going to prevent a problem from occurring in the future. Something as simple as a patio post sitting in the soil, that allows for termite or moisture intrusion. Again, more homework.
Okay. And so I have people that ask me because I think people have a certain um, preconceived idea of
Mhm.
termites in their head,
Mhm.
the bugs that are flying around, and what kind of termites do we have most commonly here in the desert?
So it's kind of an open-ended, loaded question, but traditionally what we're looking for is drywood termites. Drywood termites are the ones inside the walls. That's what you tent for. I'm doing the air quotes because it's an open-ended answer. Fumigation termites are drywood termites. They'll make the little salt and pepper pellets. You'll find them on little pyramid-shaped areas when they're pushing pellets out of the wall frame. For the desert, you have a couple areas that the drywood termites are higher preponderance. That's going to be around the Silverwood Basin. That's termites swarming through that basin there through the winds. Old school Victorville, the D Street area, down over by my favorite store, which I can't think of the name, Santa Fe Trading Company. A lot of drywood termites in that area. Mobile home parks, because while drywood termites aren't really, we'll use indigenous because today is Indigenous Peoples Day. Indigenous to the high desert region, mobile homes are moved from a number of areas. So that mobile home could have sat down in Huntington Beach for 30 years and then got moved into the mobile home park over by Lime Street Park. Those guys are the tenting termites, traditionally speaking. The other ones we have are subterranean termites. And the other one is Driftwood, Spring Valley Lake. Running from Driftwood across the street into Apple Valley Equestrian Estates, right in the bottom half of the Silverwood area. Those are areas where we anticipate finding drywood termites on a pretty regular basis. Subterranean termites live in the soil. They're ground termites. They live in the ground, come up to eat the wood. You'll notice the subterranean termites by the actual mud tubes that you'll see as time goes by. So I'll see if I can do a little bit of technology stuff. Um, let's see here. So this is a picture of a subterranean termite tube that's coming out of a wall here. And so these are kind of the mud tubes these subterranean termites create, and they'll come through.
Mm.
If you ever get bored and don't mind political rambling sometimes, you can check out my Instagram. It's at the Bug Guru. And we'll post, daily findings of things. I just posted a video on some drywood termites recently. But mud is going to be indicative of subterranean termites, and they're all over the place. They really are. There are Formosan termites that are in Southern California. They're really not too heavy in the desert regions anymore yet, I guess I should say. They are in the Palm Springs, the Indio area, and Formosan termites are ground-dwelling termites, but they'll eat your house. They're bad mamma jammas. They're concerning for a lot of people.
So let me see if I can. I'm going to add. Let's see here. Is this right? The Bug Guru,
That's the one.
and that's your Instagram.
Correct. That's my personal Instagram. Full disclosure.
I understand. So this is what you're looking. That would be the. So what I tell people is, okay, the report's going to come.
Mhm.
And there will be, if there's findings, they'll be categorized as section 1 or section 2.
Correct.
Section 1 would be the more serious or urgent of the two.
Active conditions, I'll say.
Active conditions, okay. And what they're going to tell us is, are there termites?
Mhm.
Is there damage
Mhm.
from termites?
Correct.
Or is there dry rot or fungus?
Correct.
Okay, these are all section 1 items.
100%.
And if it's a VA loan,
Mhm.
the Veterans Administration requires a termite report and clearance.
And section 1 and section 2 certification. So that's that's another tricky thing. So if you're on the listing side and you're looking at offers, conventional purchase, if it's in the contract for certification, will only require a section 1 wood destroying organism certification. And that says the property is free and clear of active infestation evidence according to the Structural Pest Control Board, blah, 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 blah. If you have an FHA purchaser, an FHA loan will require certification only if the appraiser or the underwriter calls out conditions. So if on the appraiser, the underwriter says, hey, there's water damage to the patio cover, then it's possible/probable that the underwriter will therefore require a FHA certification. Now, an FHA purchase can close a loan with no clearance or a conventional clearance, but if the underwriter calls for an FHA clearance, that's going to require section 1 and section 2. And then a VA purchase always requires a section 1 and section 2 certification every single time. So there's another asterisk, unless you're doing a streamlined refinance, which is pretty uncommon. But any VA funding will require section 1 and section 2 certification. So as a listing agent, if you see VA on the offer, it's going to have termite. You cannot fund a loan without termite.
What it does not specify, Brett, and this is part of, again, agent training and helping people understand and educating clients. What it does not specify is who pays for it.
Correct.
And there are occasions in which the buyer would pay for whatever the, I hear loan officers, sometimes they'll say, well, the buyer can't pay for it. I'm like, what it comes down to is, do you want the house or not?
Yeah.
And sometimes the way agents write their offers, it's all market driven.
Well, and VA has changed the requirements recently, and that's another tricky thing. So if you go back 14 years ago, VA would not allow the buyers to fund the work. Now they've actually gone into the non-allowables. Are wood destroying organism inspection is actually not a non-allowable now. So the buyers can actually fund the inspection fees if the company allows it. We don't allow buyers to not have a payment, not through escrow for that. So we always require all buyer payments to be taken care of prior to the inspection, unless it's actually in the contract authorized by the sellers. But yeah, those non-allowables have changed over the past 18 months. I think it's been kind of weird.
Well, and the reason is, I'm sure somebody appealed to the VA and say, you're not doing our veterans any favors in a tight market. Mm-hmm. Brett, this is the first time you and I have talked shop, mm-hmm. and I am very impressed at the depth of your knowledge of these things and the chess moves that take place. Yeah. In a tight market, you're hurting the consumer 100%. By insisting on not only the clearance, but that the seller has to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Because two things, you're hurting the buyer's chance of getting an offer accepted.
Right.
And the second thing you're hurting is the chances of getting closed inside of a contract if negotiations fall apart.
Right.
With these repairs, and the seller says, fine, beat feet, and we're just going to find us another buyer.
Right.
And in fact, I had a client here recently who wanted to list his house for sale. And he said, I will not entertain FHA or VA buyers. Mm-hmm. I said, then you just limited your buyer pool to about 30% of the market.
Right.
And if you eliminate 70% of the market as even being eligible to purchase your home, what did that just do to your price? so you're cutting your nose to spite your face.
It's one
But
of the
in
big
there,
reasons why I stress about doing a pre-list inspection, right? And I stress every single
yeah.
time when you're doing your listing appointments, get an inspection done. We create a virtual invoice for our wood destroying organism inspections for our pre-list inspections. We don't enforce it initially, so that way the buyers don't or the sellers don't have any money out of pocket. Because you can say, I don't want to do FHA or VA. Hell, some of these VA loans are funding in 14 days right now, so it's
Mm.
actually more beneficial with the streamlining the VAs are done. But if they have it in their brain, oh, my friend got an FHA loan in 1907 and it was difficult. So by doing those pre-list inspections, we're looking at things going, there won't be funding issues. Or adversely, if we're talking about a 1902 house on 6th Street that has chipped and peeling paint conditions, we can say, hey, this is going to be a problem. They're what I call NMP problems, right? The sellers go, it's not my problem that it's chipped and peeling paint. I go, if the buyers can't fund the loan, it becomes your problem real quick.
It does. Because this all goes back to, if you strip down real estate to its most basic description,
Mhm.
it is this: the transfer of title from one person or entity to another.
Yep.
That's what's happening. So it's all the stuff that has to happen along the way. And where is the money coming from?
Yep.
Well, if the buyer is not a cash buyer, you don't get to negotiate with them like you're at the flea market.
Right.
That's not how this works. If there's a loan involved and you have Fannie and Freddie and FHA or VA guidelines that the loan has to conform to,
Mhm.
now we're talking about all of these things. And if you say, well, I don't want to deal with any of that, I just want to sell my house and I want to get the max amount out of it, I don't have to have any headaches.
Yep.
Again, what did that do to your price?
Right. Now you're a
You
pawn
just,
shop.
you're
I can pawn my skateboards for $5 today, but guess what? I'm not going to get the maximum money. So it's it's such a difficult thing to do, but that's the importance of having professionals.
So do you find yourself, Brett, it sounds to me like you would have the capacity to do this. You find yourself educating agents.
I try to,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is it if it saves one deal and it's worthwhile, and as long as it doesn't cost me a bunch of time and money. I mean, I did the numbers and it's like in a real estate transaction, every sale requires 52 parts, 52 different entities to do their job right, between title and home inspections and sewer certs and escrow. And if any one of those 52 people screws up, then we're all not getting paid. So it's a little bit of a selfish move for me is by educating people. I am making sure I get paid faster.
Incredible. Okay. So just to recap, you on the, one more thing before I recap. You said that you do a virtual invoice.
Yeah, so on our pre-list inspections, so there's a couple different assumptions I made on a daily basis. So every person that I come across is an absolute idiot moron. I'm never disappointed and sometimes pleasantly surprised. Every seller is poor and every seller is a contractor. And so therefore, people don't have money, but they have equity. So while they may not want to spend $105 for an inspection fee, what we'll do a pre-list inspection. We'll set them up to that way so they know what the worst case Armageddon scenario numbers are, that if they accept a VA offer, or if a buyer request certification that's set up. So we do the inspection, we generate the invoice, and then we actually follow up online. And then once that property goes active, then we double check it. And then once it goes into escrow, then we submit the inspection with the invoice to escrow afterwards. So basically no money out of pocket for sellers to do those pre-list inspections.
Do
'Cause
you
we're at a
also,
time.
I was going to ask you, do you also provide an estimate for any repairs?
Yeah, we do, and that's a little bit of a chess move that we do. So I have 3 full-time construction crews. All they do is replace wood all day long. So we have the capacity to do that and invoice escrow. And if we'll say there's a large repair, right? And everybody's number is subjective as far as what a large repair is. But on the inspection, we're required to give findings and recommendations. If it's $7, $8, $9,000 worth of repairs, what we'll do is we actually won't put that on the inspection report. We'll advise the sellers what the cost will be, because once you open escrow, all those disclosures go to the buyers, and any monkey idiot can see an inspection report with $10,000 in repairs and do that as a request for repairs. So it's something where we'll let the sellers know what the number is as a worst case scenario, but then we're not disclosing that price for us to take care of in escrow, just to save the sellers potentially a few $1,000s.
Excellent, man. That's really, really good information. And I hope that every person that's watching is able to absorb all of this. You're giving, like, you're spitting out truth bombs, and this is stuff that
There's always pause and rewind.
that's going to really help people. I mean, immediately there's been a couple of things that you've helped me.
Mhm.
And, I've been doing this for a minute.
Yep.
So, just to recap, you are asked to do an inspection. You go do your inspection. You generate a report with findings. They could either be section 1 or section 2. Section 1 are a little more active. That's the
Mhm.
term that you like to use.
Yep.
I
Active
used the word
infestation of wood
serious.
destroying. Yep.
These are active issues, and that's termites, damage from termites, dry rot, or fungus, or any other
Right.
wood destroying organism that
Yeah,
is
carpenter
invisible.
bees, carpenter ants. I think in what is it, Wyoming, they're inspecting for chipmunks because chipmunks will undermine the foundation and cause water damage.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the section 2 items are what you called homework.
Hmm.
These are conditions
Hmm.
that could lead to termites or wood destroying organisms.
Correct.
Do
Weekend
we have it?
projects.
We have it all dialed in?
That's it.
Man, I hope this helps everybody that's watching. Listen, we want to close you out, Brett, on something that we do occasionally. It's a lot of fun, and you strike me as the kind of personality that can do that. We call this rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
All right, we're going to do some rapid fire and let the audience learn about you. You ready to do this?
Let's go. I got my Google
All right,
ready.
let's do it. Okay, here it is. Volume down a little bit so we can hear each other better. Okay, here we go. What is one of your nicknames?
The Bug Guru, Daddy. Not, I mean, from my kids. Yeah.
Okay. A favorite board game?
Monopoly. I love me some Monopoly.
You know what? That would have been my immediate answer too.
Yeah.
How about this one? Favorite breakfast?
Waffles. Regular.
Good answer. I would
have.
have said waffle combo. It's
you
like
go.
we were separated at birth. Where'd you go on your last vacation?
Last vacation went to Dallas. Did that whole thing, which was fun. I almost bought a cowboy hat.
Okay, what did you do in Dallas, bro?
We ate. We did the barbecue thing. We went to. We saw the bulls walking across the street, kind of deal, and just kind of like lived like a Texan for a week. It was pretty cool.
Fair enough. Favorite place to get a burrito?
Alberto's Chileriano burritos.
Alberto's, and that's the one with the guy with the.
I mean, and they're all really the same. There's Alberto's, Albertitos, Alberto's. It's the same kind of thing under 15 different names for licensing reasons.
And the chili
Chileriano burrito. Yep. So the Chileriano with beans and rice wrapped in a tortilla. It's amazing.
I may find something like that today.
Unreal.
How about this one? Your least favorite holiday?
Least favorite holiday is any bank holiday because escrows and lending is not happening today, and the mail's not coming, so we're not making any money today.
My wife came in and said, "It's a holiday today." I was like, "Yeah, it's Columbus Day, man." How about this one? Salty or sweet?
50-50. Just depends on the mood, but I definitely have a sweet tooth. I love me some donuts.
Me too. Where's your favorite place to get donuts?
You know, there's that place over in Apple Valley off of Bear Valley and Apple Valley Road, and they have a fruit roll-up, and it's a flour tortilla with fruit filling, deep fried with glaze over the top.
Man, you're talking about Halo Donuts?
Halo Donuts, that's the one.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite place is Neil's.
Oh yeah, they're super good too.
Okay, how about this one? Summer or winter?
Definitely summer. I like going to the beach and going to the pool. Way better.
Great answer. Last one. Cats or dogs?
Definitely dogs. My cats, we have two. They drive me crazy. And my lab is probably the raddest thing other than my wife and kids in the world. So definitely dogs.
So I used to preach for a living by vocation. Now I preach by avocation. And one of the things I like to do with audiences, I'll say, "Hey, man, I like cats just fine as long as they stay where they belong in the middle of the road." It almost... I almost guaranteed.
We have a cat, and she likes to change the remote control channels basically bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. That's her favorite time.
Oh, well, that would be cause immediately for,
right.
What do they call it? Rehoming.
Relocation.
Hey, Brett, you have been fabulous. I'd like to do it again with you sometime. And, if for some reason the NLDS goes to 5 games, maybe we'll go.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, my brother. Have a wonderful Indigenous Peoples Day.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks again for joining us. There he is, everybody. Brett Rockwell. What a mind he has and a great personality. Let's get to this week's market update. Before we do that, we ask you to please like, share, and subscribe. This helps us get the word out and good information to more and more people to help them both in real estate and in life. And this week's market update, this is for October 9th, 2023. We didn't have a show last week, so this is updated from 2 weeks ago. So let's talk about the last 30 days sold. 343 homes sold, a little bit of an uptick from 2 weeks ago. And this is part of the normal kind of market activity that happens in September and October of every year, where there's a little bit of an uptick in activity before we slow down again in November or December. Median sale price of those homes, $422,490. The year over year, if you go back 1 year ago to the same period, we sold 395 homes at $410,000. This is a 13% decrease year over year and a 2.9% increase in the price, which is fascinating. But it was right around 1 year ago that we started seeing those interest rates creep up. And so it'll be interesting as we move forward and continue to compare and contrast the number of homes sold year over year during the same period. I think you're going to start to see those numbers start to match more and more in terms of the number of units sold. In escrow, we have 492 homes. The median sale price for those homes is $429,000. So if the trend continues along those lines and those homes sell for what they're in escrow for, we're going to see sometime in the first week of November the median sale price in the desert around $430,000. Incredible. Those prices keep going up and up. For all of you that are thinking about buying a house and you're waiting for the prices to come down, they're not coming down. I watch this stuff carefully. I look over data. I look at nationwide trends. I look at building trends. I look at interest rates and consumer behavior. The prices are not coming down. What we hope is that the interest rates will come down. And if the interest rates come down, then the prices will shoot up. So my advice to you, if you're thinking of buying, is bite the bullet, buy at that higher rate and refinance when the rates come down. Active listings, still very low. Gosh, 30% of what we'd like to see, or for sure 50%, but we'd like to see 2,000 homes on the market. So we only have 776 homes listed for sale. Median sale price of those is $460,000. And again, what that indicates is that where the market moves is around the median sale price. So if it's on the market and it's at 460,000 or 500 or 550, whatever, and you're well above the median sale price, then those houses are, for obvious reasons, going to take longer to sell. I actually had a listing that was listed at 660 and it sat on the market for about 5 months, but we finally sold it. And a shout out to you, Terry O'Grady. We're looking at closing on that first of the month. That'll be great. Current interest rate, this is for 30-year fixed FHA deal, 7 to 7.125%. So those rates are creeping up. We've had some market conditions react unfavorably to the bond market last week and the investors and what they're doing and making money available. So those rates have ticked up a bit. We're hoping for better conditions this coming week. All right, we're going to close today's episode with a check this out. If you love music, and particularly you love music from the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, there's a terrific YouTube channel. It's called The Professor of Rock. And this guy does episodes just about every day. And he covers the great songs, the great artists of that era of rock music and the stories behind them. And first of all, it's really well done, very well produced, and a lot of nostalgia and a lot of warm fuzzies as he covers, some of the great songs and great artists of years gone by. We want to thank you for joining us today for today's episode of the Brian Hirsch Show. We hope that you have enjoyed it, that you've learned something. and that it's added value to your life. And so until next time, my dear brothers and sisters, we're serving your dreams. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.